Iconic women are three things: coy, beautiful, and dead. Which is to say, silent, objectifiable, and unable to fight back. Everyone of all genders falls for this at one point or another. The problem is, we know better. This is not a new or rare phenomenon. At any given time, upward of 5 to 10 women in the public eye are being actively disliked at a rate and with a fervour that we cannot conceptualize happening for their male counterparts. Whether it's founded or unfounded, left-wing or right-wing, organic or astroturfed, has a basis in ethics, politics, or just vibes, it's always 0 days since our last nonsense. This video isn't about any one of these women in particular. This video is about the industrial mechanism that is fame, and why this cycle of love, vilification, and re-adoration keeps going even after we all know it will happen, and why we can't help ourselves. And it's not just misogyny, or envy, or righteous indignation, or cancel culture. It's something else. Commodification. A baby starlet starts her life like everyone else, a human being wanting to make it big. Herein is the first issue: women and ambition.
Because I believe ambition is not a dirty word. It's just believing in yourself and your abilities.
She does what she can with what she has to get the opportunities that elevate her profile. This is her self-commodification. As audiences, we view this as demonstrating talent, but the industry isn't looking at your chops. They're looking at your numbers, your cash flow. She's demonstrating her value. Now, after proving her value to the industry, she trades on it for bigger and bigger opportunities. She gives her likeness and skills, the audience she has built and the assets she has acquired in exchange for more audience exposure and more value to trade on. This process of leverage and exchange culminates in what we see as the press tour. A spray and pray affair that puts these women in front of you constantly, sometimes daily, within a very small amount of time to create the illusion of ubiquity, in order to promote a film, record release, or other such project. As women are commodified even without a career doing it for them, we have no sympathy for these women's problems in their own commodification, as we assume their visibility grants them a level of protection and privilege that the rest of us cannot access. And though this may be true on some axes, it is very much not on others. Visibility makes you more of a target. There is also this perception that the moment you believe an artist is at their peak powers, that they are now rich. That these industries pay well, immediately, and that women in the public eye have no debtors or other people taking pieces of their pie, which they often and deeply do. This means that people assume there is a wealth privilege for celebrities that actually might not be available to them yet, or may not be available to them for a long while. Starlets also become the face of corporations. See Rachel Zegler with Disney, or Kelly Marie Tran with Star Wars. This is part of the trade these women make in order to increase their value as artists and have more leverage in future negotiations. It comes with a massive downside. You are now the human and very vulnerable face of a company or brand that you have no control over. When stars trying to distance themselves by saying stuff like Free Palestine, it isn't received well by anyone, mostly because a woman has stepped out of line and expressed an opinion instead of shutting up and playing her ordained role. But also because having an opinion, owning your own voice, was not part of the exchange she made with the studio. They didn't give you money to be a person. They gave you money to be a movable, fungible asset. This is the root of a lot of hatred of popular women in the public eye, when they stop being assets and start reminding people they are actually humans. This breaks the fourth wall of misogyny in the public eye, forcing people to reckon with their own projections and surface beliefs and assumptions. Projection. Women in the public eye are Marmite. If you don't love them or hate them, then they aren't interesting enough to be discussed and therefore not a useful or valuable asset to the companies that rely on their products or people being interesting. Almost all of what we believe about public figures is our own projections, and the projections of the brands they work for, including the cottage industry that is themselves, which includes agents and managers, stylists and PR specialists. Their construction is a targeted effort in pursuit of a goal. We don't always believe what they want us to believe, but we often do, because the countervailing information is kept from us on purpose. This is any public figure's right, to curate their image as they see creatively fit and as they believe will be most valuable to audiences and therefore most valuable to their future employers. We do live under capitalism, after all. Women are especially easy to craft this way because there are some very rigid social scripts and archetypes they can just plug and play. The ingenue, the bad girl, the serious Juilliard or NYU actress, the goofy comedienne. These all come with ideas about how to present, what is appropriate to say and not to say, and so on. As time goes on, this is an untenable proposal. A human will slip up or purposefully break the social script or pact, either because they aren't similar to their image, or they used to be but aren't anymore, or simply because humans contain multitudes. Humans aren't property. They aren't products. They are supernovas of nuance, experiences, traumas, and opinions. You can keep clipping the branches of the bonsai, but that won't stop them growing. For their careers to continue, these women need to be in the public eye often. Their existence in the public eye, like on a press tour when they're seen almost daily in beautiful outfits being asked their opinions and thoughts, sets off people's impulse to reject being sold something or to envy the amount of attention another woman is getting, not realizing that they are resenting the equivalent of a car commercial. These women are at work. No matter how much they read as just there, if you're seeing them, then by definition, they're at work. They're doing the labor necessary to build their careers, which already upsets those who aren't comfortable with female ambition, but their ubiquity during promotion and the way corporations put stars on pedestals and garner positive coverage for them induces a rejection in some viewers, especially if they already dislike something or other in the woman. And with internalized misogyny, there are so many ways not to like a woman. To be talked about is to be visible, and to be visible is to be valuable in this industry, but talk around women in our cultures around the world are not often kind or forgiving. Both internalized and systemic misogyny breed a toxic environment for any creative's public persona to exist in, and without the power to fight back, they simply just get pummeled. The effects of this one-way discussion, people talking about you in ways you are not allowed to return fire on, is deeply demeaning and strips someone of the basic dignity and right to defend themselves. This goes double for when women in the public eye are dealing with the legal system, where their words will not be taken neutrally by either the courtroom or the public. This can quite quickly create, at best, a deep resentment and anger within a public figure, and at worst, a full-on psychotic episode. Worse, if they do fight back, this starts a fresh wave of pushback. Public mechanisms of control. Ethics and politics aside, let's go over the unfounded ways that people dislike women in the public eye. There's a need for ambitious women to perform humility, to duck their head back into the crowd and prostrate themselves in the face of all that has been given to them. Often this is because of a misinterpretation of arrogance in popular women who, if they humbled themselves, would then also be seen as disingenuous. The only true accepted form of this is when a woman breaks down or has something terrible happen to her, and even in those circumstances, the audience gets to decide if the karma matches the crime of her success. Natalie Wynn, otherwise known as ContraPoints, in her essay on envy, discussed in depth how often it is incited against people most similar to us, because it highlights differences even more. As women are more likely to be paying attention to celebrity culture, I think this is why there's less pushback for men in the public eye who are more unlikable. There's less to have a visceral or humbling reaction to, as there's less similarity there. There is also a massive amount of tone policing, using the mechanisms of patriarchy to demand a certain demeanor, curb discussions, and find fault in errant words or phrases instead of good faith attempts to understand an entire message. There is also the relatability mystery matrix, or the idea that women are damned if they do and damned if they don't. At one end, we have the lesbians you know and love, Renee and Chapel, two outspoken women who are relatable in their discussion. When people seek to control these women, they bring into question the authenticity of this relatability, knowing that anyone in front of a camera is performing to some degree. This uncharitable reading can become, like with Zegler recently, a way of shutting down people's connection with these women by arousing suspicion. However, we all perform our own selves to some degree, and to call entire questions into the relatability of these women, especially theatre kids with extroverted demeanours, in a way that is never seen as suspicious in men, can only be motivated by misogyny. Mystery is just as bad. Take, for example, Beyoncé. Her silence is a protective measure for herself and her family. However, it also creates a canvas for other people to have discussions about her without her. By those who already don't like her, it is also seen as arousing suspicion, or reinforcing her privilege by being a sign of her having something to hide or being detached from the real world. Discussions on merit, or whether an audience thinks you have earned your fame, which is the oldest misogynist trick in the book, can masquerade as scholarly critique, but often ends up being a very convenient and unevenly applied tool to decide which women are legitimate within business and which are not. For example, we are all now comfortable with the idea that Britney Spears is an icon. We believe she deserves that title due to years of work. This was not so back in the day, and many would decry her and her music as being tacky, useless pop that was not relevant to true art. How is this any different to Hailey Bieber, who built her career as a model and who will surely be seen as a very successful beauty mogul in about 40 to 50 years' time, but because people believe she didn't work hard or work within fields they see as serious, that she is undeserving of a platform? Good time to talk about parasociality. There are 3 stories, 2 sides, and the truth. Firstly, celebrity culture is a very carefully curated set of facts around disparate groups of people. We must remember that every time we see or hear of celebrities, no matter how ad hoc we believe the information is or how legitimately we think it got to us, someone is making the decision to share that information, and it's not out of the goodness of their own heart. At best, it's a team of people deciding around an individual what to say and what not to say. At worst, it's weaponized or coordinated, at the smallest scale to ruin a reputation or cause drama, and at the most extreme end of the scale to win a court case. This goes both ways. When we see these games playing out in the public eye, we have to remember that we are the market and these people are competing businesses. Some of them are earnestly trying to fight their case in the court of public opinion against players much larger and more powerful than them. I hope we can hold the nuance that in order to be able to make sure your words aren't misconstrued, you have to craft them carefully. This isn't malicious manipulation, it's protective. Oftentimes, our parasocial relationship with celebrities is weaponized. We go back to our day jobs, our regular lives, but our sentiment is changed or turned against someone or something, and our sentiment is what the entertainment industry trades on. Our attention and our feelings are a commodity that celebrities and their teams can use to bring opportunity to them, win things, and disrupt their competitors. If we see the action as neutral, then the true morality of this tactic is in its motivations. What are they trying to use your sentiment to do? Are they trying to get you to ignore their box office flop by pinning it on a young actress, a scapegoat that can be replaced by 10 others? Are they attempting to disrupt the public image of a star so that she has less power to advocate for industry-wide change? Are they trying to get you to reassert a colonial and racial hierarchy within culture that puts their institution or race back on the top of the pyramid? Are they trying to undercut the power of a woman's testimony in court? Who does it benefit that you hate this woman, and why? Unlikable versus problematic. There is this new line people are drawing in the wake of cancel culture, and that seems to be, quote, hating people for the right reasons. I'd like to posit that there's a difference between cancelling, which is a removal of attention from a celebrity, which is parallel to a financial boycott of them as a product, and hate. In a world where we are too busy to go and check these things, sort them for biases, find the full context, we are reliant on middle women and men to dissect the drama for us, either in videos or in the comments section, and this is very dangerous. You never know people's true intentions. Informing everyone of a political or moral ill a celebrity, especially a woman, has done within its context and with full information, and then choosing to avert your attention from that celebrity, this is a very apathetic act, and I believe a morally good one. Like I said, it's akin to a financial boycott. Informing everyone of the inherent evil of an individual, divorced from context, devoid of any real proof, ignoring apologies or prostration that has been offered in the past, or uncharitable readings of the situation in an attempt to play up the legitimate cancellation of that celebrity, that's easy to spot. And I would consider this similar to throwing red paint on a Barclays. But the thing is, celebrities aren't Barclays. Institutions are faceless, and they like it that way. It makes it hard to hate them on a personal or visceral level, and hard to relate to, so we find it hard to work out how to dismantle them because we cannot grasp their incorporeality. In the middle of this paradigm sits politicians, the faces of institutions. These people signed up to be the face of our institutions. They often also signed up to do so under the agreement that they would protect us. The transaction with them is clear. We give you power, so it is wielded in our interest. If they don't follow up on that, you have a right to get angry at them as a person. That is their job. Celebrities are people who have signed up to be the faces of culture. In this way, yes, they can and should be held accountable for harming culture, like supporting policies, politics, ethics, or language that harms people. You have a right to revoke your attention because that's all the trade was. They aren't owed your attention or your money. And you aren't owed their good opinions or advocacy. In that way, they are like pressure targets. Revoke your end of the transaction, and they may change their behavior. This got mixed up in the past decade or so as celebrities scrambled not to get cancelled or to demonstrate their true values within their work, so as to make a promise to their fan bases that they are supporting someone they align with. Because audiences know this could be disingenuous, all anyone has to do to cancel someone is to imply that it is disingenuous. If you tie that in with our discussion on how many ways to hate a woman, we start coming out with some pretty toxic connections, which almost always get ignored and erased when it's time to love these women again. There is a simple solution which I think is already organically happening. When celebrities align with your values, show up for them. And they don't show up. Much like the Starbucks and McDonald's boycotts of the past few years, these companies don't want to let you know it's working. But it is working. In the same way, a celebrity won't say that people have stopped coming to see their work because that indicates to the market that they're no longer valuable. Instead, they'll make a rightward shift in an attempt to find new market share. This won't happen to celebrities who aren't already rightwardly aligned, and it almost never works long for those who are. 2 thoughts on men. This part of the video is for OBSCURAE paid aficionados, which is what we call the members of our site. Free membership means you get our weekly newsletter roundup of all of our unique independent coverage and access to our comment sections on the site. Paid membership is £5 a month, which gets you access to extended content, deep dives, ad-free and early access to our video essays, and if you get a yearly subscription, you get 17% off and a free 20-ounce OBSCURAE mug. Thank you in advance for supporting us to keep bringing you coverage just like this.